Fresh is the word.
Welcome to the Fresh is the Word podcast. I'm your host, K Fresh. We are at episode number 12 now, and things are really starting to sort of, take shape. For this week's episode, we're going to be talking some music. We're going to be talking, more importantly, about some wrestling with hip-hop artist Open Mike Eagle. Recently, he put out an album with fellow rapper Serengeti under the name Cavanaugh, and the album's called Time and Materials. It was released on the Mellow Music Group label. Open Mike Eagle, he's originally from Chicago and has become one of the more buzzworthy hip-hop artists on the independent circuits. He also has his own podcast called Secret Skin. In an interview, we talk about his music career, how he got started, how he met some of the people he collaborated with. But then we get into some wrestling. We talk WWE, talk some of the independent companies, and then we throw out some predictions for this Sunday's Royal Rumble. So let's start the show and my talk with Open Mike Eagle. David Bowie?
Yeah, man.
Oh, man. Such a sad loss, man.
Yeah, dude. Legit musical hero of mine.
When did you first, come about David Bowie?
I feel like I got exposed to him when I was young, but it didn't really hit me. But when I was in college, one of the first CDs I bought when I had my first off-campus apartment was this greatest hits Bowie CD. Was 1969 and 74, and then that just opened up everything. I went back and got all of them albums, and I kept getting the greatest hits albums and going back and getting all those records. Man, I was just listening to Bowie records from the 80s last week that I hadn't heard yet. I always go back to them. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah, he had so much, music out there, and it was we both grew up in the 80s, and it's just there was no way of getting around it. You always saw something that David Bowie did, because you're coming from everything from the 70s, but then he was still making stuff on a regular basis in the 80s, so you couldn't get around it. You were exposed to David Bowie. Right,
and I think the 80s stuff, growing up, it sounded so much like the times that I didn't really I don't know, something about it went over my head.
Right.
You go back to the 60s stuff, that Space Oddity album, and all the stuff from that time, Hunky Dory, 70s stuff too. It's really incredible music in all different styles, man. From folk to metal to, disco, it's crazy. Soul, just dope at everything.
Right, and it was it was a thing where it's even when you're growing up, you really didn't get it until later on,
Mm-hmm.
And you're you look back and you're oh, that, I remember this growing up, this is dope, and this is something different, and it's crazy that it came from that, time, that era,
Exactly.
And what's crazy about, Bowie's music, and there is that it just kind of, transcended, gender lines and race lines, He was on fucking Soul Train and shit like that,
Man. Absolutely.
Shit. So, how's things been with you, man?
Pretty good, man. I'm getting ready to I'll fly to Europe tomorrow evening, so I've been just getting ready for that.
How's the shows been going lately?
Pretty good, man. It's a little tough during the holidays sometimes. Everybody ain't where they usually are, but it's been great to perform new music. You know what I mean?
How did this new project that you did with Serengeti Cavanaugh come about?
Me and him has been knowing each other for years, and had always made songs. We went to college together. And I've always been a huge fan of his. And we had decided, early this year we were going to make a project. So, we made the time to do it. He flew out here, and we just made it. You know what I mean? And we used my beats, which was something that I was a little nervous about at first, but it gave us a very specific kind of sound. And I feel like the project, we approached in a very personal manner. So I'm really proud of how it came out.
And you've been putting out some projects with Mellow Music Group past couple years. How did you first get linked up with them?
I started working with Hoslow. I think was the first cat I really worked with on Mellow. I knew about Odyssey and Apollo Brown and all them, but I didn't really like know him personally. I started working with Hoslow, and Hoslow really kind of opened my eyes about the label. And then I did a song with I cannot remember the homie's name, but my man Larange was a producer there. Did a song with Stick Figure, and I did a guest verse on that album,
Okay.
and I got a little bit of a sense of how it was to work with them on a business tip, and and I thought it was super cool. So then we started talking about putting my records out, and it's been going really good.
Yeah, like when you put out Dark Comedy, it seemed like it kind of propelled you more on the indie circuit a bit more with the media and the blogs and whatnot. Kind of, when you drop that album, kind of talk about the response you got from it.
It was good, man. Just in terms of the songs themselves, I mean, people really felt the vibe of where I was coming from on that album in terms of trying to find ways to like deal with things through humor, and then through my sense of humor and all of that. Um, you know, um, the sound, I think, in terms of quality, I hadn't put out an album that sounded that good yet. Just a lot of the producers I work with were in peak form, and then got it mixed and mastered really well, and then having like Hannibal on the album was really helpful. It was just a lot of synergy that happened, and so the album got in front of a lot of people. So yeah, it was a good response. It did kind of like open some things up for me. So
How'd you link up with Hannibal?
he's another cat I went to college with, man. Me, him, and Get It. We all went to school together.
Oh, nice. How's those times going to school together with those guys?
It was cool, man. I mean, we were all just, figuring shit out. You know what I mean? We were all in school and figuring out music, figuring out comedy, and having a really good time down there too. There was a lot of people down there that are really open to like new experiences. So we used to have these nights where it was like, Hannibal hosted, and we'd all get up and rap or whatever at somebody's house. Like we used to, you know what I mean? It was a real creative community we had going down there.
What school was it?
Southern Illinois University.
Okay. Great. And when's you have this, the sort of thing that you coined art rap, what exactly is that, and how do you kind of explain that to people?
When I first started using it myself, I was just thinking about, I was taking a long drive to Vegas by myself, and I started thinking about how in the rock world they have all these different designations. You got your pop and your punk and your metal and your thrash and your prog and all of this.
Oh yeah.
But in rap we didn't have that. So I wanted to carve out something that was specifically for people who approached rap music the way that I felt like art rock musicians approach that music, where like people expected a certain amount of whimsy, a certain amount of like creativity, expected them to be progressive in that kind of way. So I wanted to start to lean into that term art rap. It's not like a perfect term, but I just think that that's where we're at right now. Like rap having been around for coming up on 40 years, I think it's time that for public consumption we start trying to like designate that all rap isn't exactly the same. You know what I mean? So just that, because I feel like people have like just kind of one way that they want to look at rappers, and I want to open that up some.
Right, because being that hip hop has been around for so long, we're finally kind of getting into that maturation period where there is sort of a mature audience, a mature sort group of artists. You have like people like Scarface, who put out an album a few months back, which was one of his best in his career. And it used to be, hip hop used to be something looked at as a young man's game, but there's so many instances where that's just not true, and that there is different facets of it now because it's progressed so much.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And that's the thing, is giving it room to mature. You know, like that's not really been. I don't know, for some reason, just the genre feels like it's really capped by certain ideals, and I think they mostly just have to do with people's expectations. So um, I have been interested in trying to open that up.
When it comes to the songs that you write, how much of that is like your personal experiences, and then how much of that is just observations of other things?
Man, most of them are a good mix of both. The ideas that I tend to have for songs come in some sense from my personal experience, but um, that's where I start from. But I tend to add observational stuff from there, or absurdist stuff, or just I like to stretch out a concept to like as far as it'll go in my head. I like to follow the train of thought to like where it ends, and sometimes it ends at a place that's kind of outside of my experience. But like I don't have I don't have a problem like filling in the dots or trying to, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you first get into just hip hop as a culture?
I mean, I grew up in it, but I wasn't really like connected to it until like high school when I read this book called Bomb the Suburbs, and this book, and it happened to like coincide right when I started really paying attention to people around me who were like breakdancing and doing graffiti and rapping.
Right.
And this book said if you wanted to call yourself hip hop, you had to participate. You couldn't just like be an observer. So it pushed me into rapping and graffiti and breakdancing, and really connected me to hip hop culture from there.
What was some of the first things that you did when you were like making those conscious decisions to kind of participate?
I would rap, man. Like that was the big thing, was just rapping. Like that was the first big hurdle because like, you know, you can't just kind of start breakdance. You have to really kind of learn.
Right.
Um, Graffiti is like cool. You can practice in a notebook or something, but it takes materials. You got to buy stuff. You know what I mean? And DJing was just out of the question for me because I couldn't afford turntables, none of that shit. So, I wanted to do that one too, but I couldn't. But rapping is just you have it. It's just in your body. You're listening to the music. There's beats around you all the time. So it's like you have to just decide to rap. And me and my friends, like it was about four of us, we all just decided to rap, and we were all horrible at first, like people tend to be. But that was the big decision, was to like, okay, we're gonna sit in the back of this KFC and we're gonna rap. You know what I mean? We're gonna do it. We're just gonna rap. And if we're just rapping by ourselves right now, cool. But we're gonna get confident enough that when we go to the spots where people are rapping, we'll rap there. We're gonna work our way to that. We used to sit on the phone and just rap terribly. You know what I mean? Like hours, but we would do it.
Who were during that time? Who were some of the the rappers you kind of looked up to?
Common was a huge influence on me because he was from the South Side of Chicago, which is where I was. And there weren't really any national rappers, doing the kind of hip hop that I enjoyed at that time, except him. You had like Twista, Do or Die, like Crucial Conflict, but that style wasn't a style that I was really appreciating at the time. But like Common, in terms of what ended up being, known as like the backpack style, was what I was into at that time. Like he was that dude, So him, and then all the Native Tongues cats, and him being down with them was just huge. Like, this dude grew up like down the street from me, and he's kicking it with like all these guys I grew up listening to, and almost idolized. So him, the Native Tongues, De La Soul, Tribe Called Quest, Busta Rhymes was really huge for me, and Wu Tang was really huge for me too.
Do you remember the first material that you ever recorded?
Yeah. I remember the first verse. I mean, I don't remember word for word, but I remember my first recording experience. I was in a Chicago crew called the Necrobats, big hip hop crew. All of us did all of the arts, and they used to make tapes. And one of the tapes they wanted me on a song because I was starting to get really known as like a freestyler, like kind of like known pretty well, like battling and I was getting some shine like that. But that first recording experience was terrible. It was absolutely horrible. I had no, stuff I didn't know about, like Breath Control, writing for breath pauses, for like, even for proper pronunciation in a booth, like, and just, I was very uncomfortable and I really didn't know what I was doing. So I'm not super proud. I mean, I think I wrote pretty well, but the actual technical side of rapping for recording, I had no handle on whatsoever at that point.
Right. For the past, 5 years or so, you have been, steadily putting out projects. How do you feel like you've progressed from those first projects you put out?
I just think, rapping is very much a craft, and it's like, they say you master something, it takes 10,000 hours or whatever. It's that kind of thing. And like at this point, I've had to be 150 songs or something like that. Guest rapped on a bunch of people's stuff, and just and done hundreds of shows, and I feel like I just have a way better handle on what it means to rap now, what it means to rap live, what it means to rap in a booth. So I think just my comfort level and my mastery level of the craft has increased, and I feel like I know more now exactly how to put things how I want to put them too, in terms of the writing. Like I know kind of how to find my way of addressing things.
Yeah, I see that you have your own podcast called Secret Skin. What's that about?
I mostly talk to creatives. I talk to a lot of rappers, producers, DJs, a couple authors, and I try to like give them a chance to like kind of create their own narratives and talk about like what goes into their projects and what their lives are like. Real kind of in-depth interviews with people who often don't get a chance to put their own story forward,
Right.
Yeah.
When you're going into a project that you're working on, do you kind of have an idea of where you want to go with it, or is it just kind of like a little bit of a freeform thing and things just kind of, come as they come?
I kind of take each piece of music that comes into my my sphere kind of individually, and so when I'm crafting music, like I start making stuff, and I start looking at what I have, and then I start to notice what the defining features are, and I tend to kind of pick a direction from there, like kind of halfway into it, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, it does. Okay, yeah, I've heard you're a big wrestling fan. Are you just like a WWE guy, or do you pay attention to the indies?
It's interesting. Like I feel like I hear a lot about the indies. I like knowing what's up, but I don't take the time to watch a lot of them, if that makes sense.
Right.
I went to my first PWG show here in Southern California like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And that was incredible, and I really enjoyed that, and I would like to do more stuff like that. And I definitely felt like I was amongst my people. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, like that was super dope, and like I think what it comes down to too is the accessibility of the product. Like when Ring of Honor was on Destination America, I was watching it every week, and now it's not, and now I don't watch it anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
There's like a, I don't know how to put it, but there's like a barrier I have. I guess it's because the amount of time I have to consume things is kind of limited. I don't go past a certain point of effort to try to find indies to watch, but I listen to hella podcasts to talk about them. But I'm also like, if I'm to be honest, I'm very much dialed into what's going on in WWE, because to me it's like how they go, so goes the industry. You know what I mean?
Right.
And in that, if you look at the roster right now, man, I was looking at the other day, man, like this IC title match on the first episode of SmackDown on USA.
Yes.
the main event is Kevin Steen versus John Moxley.
Right.
That's wild as hell. Like, and you look at who they're bringing in right now. The Bullet Club guys. I mean, if you look at like who all is getting a WWE paycheck right now, it's kind of crazy, man. Like everybody from Sting to and it's about to be Nakamura. You know what I mean? Like that span is crazy. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think they have such a huge influence on what goes on in the product. I always stayed out. Like I always watch Raw.
Yeah.
3 hours of Raw every week. I watch it. You know what
Definitely.
I mean? I listen to hella podcasts that analyze what's going on in WWE behind the scenes and on screen. You know, like it's a big part of how I spend my time.
Yeah, I feel like there's this definite kind of resurgence when it comes to like the independents. Like what you witnessed at the PWG. That's something that's really exciting going on. With what's going on with Ring of Honor. Not really an independent, but, you got the stuff that's going on with New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
That's, finding its way over here. And there's definitely this sort of, there's an excitement. It's kind of cool again. It's not at the heights it was during that, late 90s, Attitude Era, NWO, Monday Night Wars thing, But there's this resurgence that's actually really exciting. And what's going on with, these guys, the rumors coming in with these new guys coming into the to WWE, like, AJ Styles and Nakamura, it's building sort of like the closest thing that we'll ever get back to the territories sort of era of wrestling.
Right. I mean, I think it's really sad that they don't that it doesn't seem that the WWE understands that they need a territory system. Like that to me is like one of the grand tragedies of where we're at right now. Is that if you look at, especially having the WWE network, and I look back at all these old, all this old footage, and you see how long it took guys to understand how to get the business. You know what I mean? To understand how to get over. Understand how to work crowds. And now it's like they feel like they can just go get ex-football players and train them for a few months and put them on TV. And it's like, damn, like they have to understand at some point that if you look at their huge boom in the 80s, all of those guys came from territories.
Yeah.
The Attitude Era, like, you look at Shawn Michaels, Steve Austin, even like The Undertaker, all of these guys had cut their teeth in territories and in other companies before they were able to really get over big. Like Vince is a great mind for how he was able to take these talents and put them with the right gimmick and get them over. But they had to have that foundation, and it doesn't seem like that's important to them now. I don't understand how.
I think, they're trying to get back with that, with having the NXT brand a part of the company to be able to kind of do that. But, with it being sort of like, just a totally different era where, like, kayfabe really isn't kayfabe anymore.
Very real.
It's kind of hard to get back to that territory sort of era. But the NXT thing is kind of like the closest thing that we can kind of get to that. But still, when they bring these guys up to the main roster or bring somebody else in, like I was just reading in this article, it's getting to the point where WWE is not treating anybody special anymore.
Interesting.
You know how like when Undertaker came in, he was special.
The thing that's funny is that sometimes they do get it. Like if you look at how they brought Owens up,
they're doing a good job with. I feel like,
but this thing is they did a great job. Like they brought him in, put him over Cena, and he seemed like he seemed like he was a legit made guy, and they were interested in keeping him over. But then they started back with the 50-50 thing. Even like Bray Wyatt, like they brought him in so strong, and then it's like they weren't interested in keeping his heat. Like I don't know what the philosophy is there, but they've been so bad about keeping heat on guys. Like you can look back at like Ryback. Ryback had all sorts of heat for when he had the unbeaten streak.
Yeah.
But then they turned him heel and jobbed him out to Cena, and he tumbles back down the card. Like, you can look at like Fandango, you know what I mean? Like all the heat in the world, and they couldn't keep it going for like 2 weeks.
Right. It gets to the point where, and it's just hard to grasp what their idea is behind doing that and making them go from being special to being just another wrestler. But I'm not understanding why, they don't keep up the things with like Bray Wyatt and Owens. Because Bray Wyatt could be like, I'm not saying the next Undertaker, but that type of guy where he's like a total, like, sort of other guy, that scary dude,
Yeah, and I think, they were trying to position that with that new Face of Fear thing. But
he kept losing. They kept on making him lose after a while.
They jobbed him out to the old Face of Fear. You know what I mean? Like,
you can't be the Face of Fear if you're losing all the time.
Exactly, and it seems like such an obvious thing, but they don't follow through with it. It's really interesting. Like, I really would like to know what the philosophy is with the 50-50 booking, because what it seems to me is to create an environment where nobody's over. You know what I mean? Like, the fans feel like they can't get behind anybody because they want to see somebody win. Like, that's always been how it's gone. So it's like, how, like, I don't know how they expect to keep people dialed in if once a guy starts to get a little shine, he gets jobbed out.
Right. It's something where they don't want to, like, piss off anybody's fan base or anything, but it's just like, it shouldn't even be like that. You should, like, if you're a wrestling fan, you should, to a certain extent, be pissed off at something.
Right. They gotta sacrifice somebody. You have to sacrifice somebody. Like, you build up mid-carders so that you can, you can use them to get guys over into the main event. You know what I mean? It's just kind of how it's always gone. Like, you gotta have guys on the roster who are kind of strong so that they can help build guys up when you put guys over them. It's always been how it goes. And then what used to happen is, those guys who help get people over, after a while they get repackaged and they get a chance to get over,
Right. And it's just like, I was just reading this one article. It mentioned how, like, during one of those recent Raws when, Steph was, and Roman were in the ring, and Roman was saying if he loses everything, he can't make any money and blah, blah, blah. Like, that's very unrealistic, because a guy like that would be able to go somewhere else and at least make some money, good money somewhere, and she was saying that, he's not special and anything. You couldn't say that, like, in the Attitude Era, like someone like Steve Austin would have been like, screw you, I am special.
Yeah.
If I walk away now, I can go do something else, I'll be fine, but it's a way of, like, I don't know why they're not, like, making these guys special and putting the company over all the talent.
Right. Yeah. I was listening to a podcast just yesterday, and what they were saying was that reportedly around the time, I guess this was 2004 or maybe 3 or something like that, we're in a very close in a short time window. Austin retired. Rock left to go do movies more. And then Brock and Goldberg both left. And then what he was saying was that he had heard that around that time Vince decided that he was going to change the business to where no person was bigger than the company, and they were going to put more focus on the company. But I mean, if that's the case, I mean, you have to look at that as having failed at this point, because nobody's over,
Right. And since then, there's been times when the business itself, the fans, put over guys.
Yep.
You have like CM Punk and Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
Guys where the fans were like, yo, we want these, we love these guys. As much as WWE didn't want to put them over as much as they were forced to.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's it's crazy, and I'm interested to see what's going to go on with you got all these injuries in the company, and then all the rumors of, Nakamura and the Bullet Club guys that come over, and just interested to see how this is going to happen.
Right. Yeah. I love Nakamura, and Nakamura's got all the charisma in the world. I don't have a lot of faith they're going to put him in a position to capitalize off of that. I think he'll do great at NXT, but I think that's sad that he'll just be in NXT. You know what I mean? I think if you're WWE and you're looking at what these guys are doing, you got to put them in a position where they can do what they're doing. Like AJ Styles is a badass right now.
Yeah.
Are you going to let him be a badass when you bring him in? Like, that's a big question. They seem to not really want high-level baby faces to be badasses. Like they're just starting to kind of turn the corner on Roman Reigns and give him a little edge.
Right.
But for so long they wanted him to be like exactly like Cena. You know what I mean? And even Cena, Cena is well known, but it's not like he's setting the world on fire in terms of being over. He's still getting booed a lot, and I think a big reason why is because in this era, post-Attitude Era, we really don't want just a smiling good guy. You want a guy with a little bit of edge, and I want to hope that they're going to bring these guys in and let them be edgy,
Right. It's with a AJ Styles or a Nakamura, it's almost like when if they come to WWE, they need to be like, they chose to come here. They just want to be here to prove that they can, kick some ass on the, the biggest stage in the world, Not that, they need WWE. It needs to be the other way around, where these guys are special and why are they here,
Right.
Why did they come here? Why are they here? Kind of back in the 90s when, Hall and Nash, went to WCW, you had that whole mystery of why are these guys here?
Exactly.
These are the two biggest guys in the other company, why are they here? So hopefully something like that can happen if they do, come to WWE.
Yep. That's the hope. That's the hope, man. They have big holes to fill, but if you look at how they're how they're treating the main roster right now, I mean, I don't know. I'm worried. I'm worried that they won't let these guys do what they do, and they'll try to fit them into what they think is what they think should be happening right now.
Yeah, a lot of these guys need to be, let them be themselves a lot more. What I do like with Kevin Owens is that he really gets in his in-ring persona. He keeps it like that all the time. He's even on Twitter like that. Well, all the other wrestlers are just doing sort of promotional tweets or fun-loving ones. He's on there shooting on the fans and stuff like that, or shooting on other wrestlers, and he's being Kevin Owens in the ring on Twitter, and
Yep.
I think it just propels his whole in-ring character even more,
It's interesting though, because I've heard some people complain about what he does, because sometimes it's not very heelish because he's being so entertaining.
That's that kind of line. That's that kind of Steve Austin line that kind of got created where it's like they're such a heel that it's entertaining and funny that
Right.
you're that you're gonna cheer them.
Right, but that's the thing, is they got to turn them facing, or at least start putting them in that direction. It doesn't seem like they're doing that right now. It seems like they're pretty solidly behind keeping him heel for a while. So it is. Sometimes I do look at his work and how he'll stop and yell at Michael Cole, and I think that's super great. But I'm wondering is that that kind of heat. It's hard to stay heel with that kind of heat, and if you're working a heel program, I wonder if that's what you should be doing.
Right now with Owens, it looks like they're kind of even trying to progress his heelness even more to be that kind of sort of psychotic heel.
Yeah, I do I like the dangerous aspect. I really do like the dangerous aspect a lot.
Where he's just kind of putting people through tables, but then just sitting over them, just kind of like taking it all in, you know.
Yeah, that old Bubba Ray Dudley look.
How do you how do you like the whole, tag team aspects going on in the
I
WWE?
mean, I love the New Day, but it does seem to be a problem that they're head and shoulders above everybody else. Like it doesn't look like anybody's even close to being as over as them. So it's hard to figure out who's gonna really challenge them in a legit way where they won't be overshadowed. I do like that they're trying to work with the Lucha Dragons, but I mean, Sin Cara's is like all of the blown spots and injuries. Like it's just tough that like Kalisto is so good, but I'm wondering if they're going to be able to get over as a tag team when Sin Cara, has his issues in the ring. I'm not feeling the Usos right now. Like they're great workers, I know that, but like, I think they're another team where we need to be able to see their personalities a little bit more, and not just like the high flying smiling guys. And then I mean the Dudleys. I don't. You know what? I like the idea of the Dudleys being there more than I like their actual matches. If that makes sense. I love the 3D. I hate the what's up spot right now. I feel like that's like kind of too played out, and it kind of takes me out of the match.
Very, very.
And then like you ever seen that Devon spot? I think maybe they stopped doing it because I haven't seen it in a while. But that neck breaker he does off of out of the corner.
I think so. Yeah.
Like it always just this awkward setup where the guy ends up having to be leaning backwards on the second turnbuckle, and he like grabs their neck and kind of jumps out. Like I hate that spot. It looks so unnecessarily dangerous and weird to set up.
Right.
Stuff like that. Like I enjoy them being there because it's good to have some vets around. But I think their match work probably should be updated a little bit. And who else we even got in the tag teams right now?
There really isn't, because everybody else has kind of gone away a little bit. That was primetime players kind of haven't really been around.
Yeah, and I think not Titus. What's the other guy's name?
What is his name?
I forgot it too, but I think he's hurt actually. Yeah,
he probably is, because they just kind of like they were the tag champs, and then they lost, and then they kind of just went away.
Yeah. I think it's all basically trying to get Titus over, but yeah, I'm not really super feeling them either.
We're like when they first brought out the whole New Day thing. Were you down with it at first, or?
God, no! I was very worried about it because when they first started and they were baby faces and they were trying to do like the motivational thing, like I just like and I'm pretty sure at the time that was legitimately what they were trying to do was make that a babyface thing, but I saw that coming a mile away that would never work now. You know what I mean? Like that kind of black church thing, that's not going to work in WWE. There's never, like it's too, it's too smiley. It's not what people are going to get into, So, I love the turn. I love the turn. I love that they're able to kind of go out there and do their own thing on the mic. I think that's huge. They're able to kind of get over that way,
Yeah, that was kind of like a thing that was like, it was like a low risk thing. Because at the time it was just like none of those guys were kind of, getting any sort of reaction in the crowd from what they were doing previously. Then they tried this positive New Day thing. Then it got to the point and that wasn't working. Everybody hated it. It was just pretty much like, go and do whatever, what can you lose at this point, And it got over.
Yeah. Worked out.
And they're one of the most entertaining things on the show, if not the most entertaining thing on the show these days, Yep,
definitely.
And when he brought out the trombone, man, oh man.
I love the unicorn stomp spot.
Oh yeah, it gets to the point every week I'm like, my ribs hurt, from laughing so hard, man. So but at the same time, is like they also do good matches, you know.
Yeah, they're great workers, man. Great workers.
And Kofi's been, a long time been a really good worker, you know.
Yeah, it's great that he's gotten himself in a position to get over like that, you know?
Yeah, and same thing with Big E. It was just he, at first when he came into the company, he was just like the quiet kind of muscle, you know. And that didn't really work, you know. So it's it's good that these guys were able to find a spot, and it's working so great.
Yep, I concur.
Do you ever watch any of the New Japan Pro Wrestling stuff?
I haven't seen any of it. Actually, while Wrestle Kingdom was on, I looked into it a second for trying to order it, but then I gave up.
Yeah, Wrestle Kingdom was really good. Like that's their WrestleMania basically each year. And they have a lot, even like all of their matches are really good, but it's more of I guess more of a strong style sort of work in the ring, where it's just more, it's not more, it's just more like you look at it and like that head hurt, that type of shit,
Leaning into it,
like kicks and stuff like that. But they they're adopting more American style kind of ideals into the matches now, where the matches might not be as long as they used to. They used to have like 45-minute, hour matches and stuff like that,
It's crazy.
So now they're kind of, and they're bringing in more of like this sort of heel ideals from America into it. They have more, like they've had more like foreign talent than ever the past few years, Like everybody that's in the Bullet Club,
Right.
except for one guy, weren't Japanese,
Who's the Japanese guy in Bullet Club? I mean, because I'm legit asking because I don't know.
His name is Yujiro. I can't even say his name. Fucking Yujiro Tanahashi.
Oh, Tana. He was in Bullet Club?
No, there's two Tanahashis.
Oh, okay.
The other Tanahashi, he just fought Okada for the belt, but Okada maintained the belt because Tanahashi won the G1 Climax.
Right.
The G1 Climax is in the end is a big like round robin tournament over like 29 days.
Right.
But
Yeah, I remember seeing the results pop up and stuff.
But like what you win out of it is basically the Money in the Bank briefcase.
Right, basically, yeah.
But the cool thing is about that is that briefcase, he has to defend the briefcase until January 4th.
Oh, that's tight. So somebody else can win it.
Yeah, so basically somebody else could win it. I don't know if anybody else ever has, but I think that would be a cool thing to do with the Money in the Bank briefcase.
Right.
Until you actually cash it in, you should have to defend it also.
Wow. Yeah, that would make it a lot better.
Yeah, I usually get really annoyed by the Money in the Case thing because every week you just here's the Money in the Briefcase winner, Sheamus. Over and over again, and you're just like, bro, I'm sick of hearing that,
Yeah.
Like, it would be cooler if you had to, like, defend it, too.
Yeah, it would put an interesting wrinkle in it. Right now, it is getting a little, it's getting a little too predictable.
So coming up on Royal Rumble, this year, they have Roman Reigns going to have to defend his belt in the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, which I also think is an interesting wrinkle. I think I think the belt's gonna come off of him somehow, and I think it's a good way to do that without having him be pinned. Especially just another way to screw him.
Yeah.
In an interesting way, I think it makes the Rumble a lot more interesting.
Yeah, I think last year the Rumble was so boring.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, like, I think these days though, with the way the kind of action in the match is a bit faster than back in the day, I think they should it shouldn't be every 2 minutes that a new wrestler comes in, maybe every minute.
Yeah, I could see it moving along a little faster.
Because that was the problem with last year. They kept on just throwing people out of the ring, man. And there was always somebody just standing in there, waiting for the next wrestler to come in. So who do you do you see Roman Reigns keeping it, or do you think he might get screwed?
I think he's gonna get screwed, and I hope he gets screwed. I mean, I hope that they don't, like that would be ultimately a huge ass waste of time if the entire Royal Rumble is set up that the winner wins the belt and the belt doesn't change hands. I think that's like, I think it's a royal waste of time. They could have just, if that was going to be the case, they could have just put him in a match and had him go over somebody and then, build somebody up in the Rumble so the Rumble would remain interesting.
Right. Any ideas about matches for WrestleMania?
I mean, man, with all these injuries, it's really hard to say. Brock is going to be there, but I don't think he'll be wrestling. Brock has to go up against somebody, but I can't think of who. I mean, I don't know who they build up for Brock at this point. Taker's around. I don't know who you put Taker with. There's so many questions right now. I think it was supposed to be Taker Cena.
Yeah, that was the rumors that it could be.
Yeah, so I don't. I have no idea really what they do. I mean, it does look like it's going to be Roman Triple H, which is I could deal with that. You know. But yeah, it's just so many questions, man. I have no idea what they're going to do, and hopefully they can work in some of these new guys or some of the NXT guys, and really kind of make it interesting. Because right now it's just so many question marks. I have no idea.
Who do you like in NXT these days?
I like Gable and Jordan.
Yeah.
I love Enzo and Cass, like that entrance, man. To me, there's such a lack of like those old school like get yourself over entrances.
Right.
I just love to see stuff like that. Even in Finn's entrance with the hands, with the arms out and all of that. Like I really enjoy. I think it's for so long there's been this lack of things that you can count on as a fan, and I think that's a big part of what makes wrestling fun is that there's catchphrases or there's things you can do to be involved. To bring up Fandango again, that dance, half of it was about people wanting to have something to do. Like when you give people a chance to be involved and they don't hijack the show as much. I really think that's an important thing. So I really like Enzo and Cass a bunch, and of course the women down there are killing. Bailey is amazing.
Yeah.
Asuka is crazy great.
Oh yeah, I love Asuka. Yeah,
man. And Samoa Joe is one of my all-time favorites. They got so much good stuff going on down there right now.
Yeah, I always fear though that Asuka might actually hurt somebody down there because.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
Some of her kicks and stuff be like going hard, man. I'm like, oh man, she's gonna hurt somebody down there.
I hear you.
Yeah, and I love Enzo and Cass. It was like I remember when I first saw them, I'm like, man, who are these jerk offs? But then by the end of the match, I was like, these guys are awesome.
Yeah, man, they're great.
Plus, they're good workers, and they just like they have these catchphrases, they have this energy, and it's just awesome, Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love Finn Balor's like entrance. It's fantastic. Like he when he was in New Japan as Prince Devitt, like towards the end, he was kind of doing like a similar entrance like that.
That's dope.
Like there's one time when he was defending his belt, like it might have been at like one of like it was at one of New Japan's big events like Wrestle Kingdom or something like that. They actually brought him out in a coffin, and then propped the coffin up at the top of the entranceway, and then he came out all dressed up in like the demon paint that he has now as Finn Balor. I'm like, holy shit, this is like one of the coolest entrances ever, man.
I love the demon stuff a lot.
Yeah, I hope like he's somebody that I don't want him rushed to the main roster. But I hope he is able to get a great push on the main roster eventually.
Yeah, I agree. I just I always have a thing in my head about how Vince really doesn't like small guys. I mean, I think if you look at what's going on with Neville right now, it's really hard to be excited about Finn. It's really hard to think that they're going to actually give him a shot to really get over if they're not giving Neville one.
Exactly. That's something I'm always scared about. I'm like, dude, Finn Balor's so good, but it's just like, is he gonna get over with the crowd? Is they gonna give him the opportunity to, do what he does? So we'll see.
Yeah, that's all we can do.
Right. So you're about to go back to Europe on a tour?
Yep, leave tomorrow night.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, that's about it for the interview, man. So have a good time on your tour, man. Thanks for
Appreciate it, man.
talking music and wrestling with me.
Two of my favorite things, man.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah, let's keep in touch, man.
For sure.
All right, man. You have a good day.
You too. Take care.
All right, peace. So that was my talk with Open Mike Eagle. It was really cool to talk with him. We're going to have a lot more episodes where I'm going to be talking wrestling with people that are just fans of wrestling, that are just like maybe hip-hop artists or whatnot. And we're just going to shoot the shit about the wrestling industry, throw out our predictions, fantasy book. It's going to be really fun. So I was glad to have, Open Mike Eagle come on and, kind of shoot the shit about wrestling. And also, coming up this Saturday is my birthday, January 23rd. And if you're in the Detroit area, I will be celebrating it at Goodnight Gracie in Royal Oak. I'll be spinning vinyl with my homeboy Joshua Adams. All vinyl, all night, old school funk, soul, R&B, hip hop. Gonna be drinking some drinks, shooting some shots. It's gonna be a blast. No cover, no dress code, no problems. Come chill, come party, come dance. Oh hell yeah! If you'd like to support the Fresh is the Word podcast, you can go to our website, which is freshasthepodcast.com. And there's a link at the top that says support the podcast. And on that page, there is a PayPal link that you can donate to. Or there is a Amazon link on there that you can use anytime that you want to purchase anything on Amazon. Use that link, and after you make your purchases, Amazon will shoot some commission back to me. I'll just go to help the show. Also, I definitely appreciate all the listens, and if you definitely want to share the links to the website, freshasthepodcast.com, or any of the links on Soundcloud, that's definitely appreciated and will definitely help support the podcast. You can also reach Fresh is the Word on the social medias at Instagram and Twitter at Fresh is the Word 1. That's Fresh is the Word number 1. And on Facebook, you can go to facebook.com/Fresh is the Podcast and give us a like on that page. We're also on iTunes and Stitcher Radio, so go ahead and search Fresh is the Word on there and go ahead and subscribe to us. And it also would be very helpful if you go onto iTunes and give us a 5-star rating and throw some comments on there. Thanks for listening. See you soon.
Fresh is the word.